And why do we need cheering up? Well, for those of you living overseas or haven't been paying attention to the Australian news, here's what's happened since last week's episode.
Tonight, lockdown in effect for millions of New South Wales residents as restrictions expand to all of Greater Sydney and beyond.
Greater Darwin sent into a snap lockdown after an outbreak at a gold mine.
This morning, Sydney, Darwin and now Perth in COVID lockdown.
A 3-day lockdown for large parts of Queensland. The Premier warns it's time to go hard and go fast.
Scenes of panic buying as Alice Springs goes into lockdown.
All states and territories are scrambling to contain the latest COVID outbreak, with close to 12 million Australians now under stay-at-home orders.
Hey, not all states and territories. Currently, the people of Tasmania are free to do whatever they want. They can even travel to New Zealand. Wow, that'd be a real change of scenery for them. And then in Canberra, you can also go out. But, you know, it's Canberra, so you probably won't. Yeah, so to recap, a limo driver in Sydney spreading the Delta variant and a hotel quarantine leak involving a fly-in, fly-out mine worker in Queensland has sent most of Australia back into lockdown for the first time since March 2020. Geez, coronavirus really thrives in the winter. Who could see that coming? Not the Australian federal and state governments, that's for sure. Yes, while every other state in Australia seems to announce a hard and fast snap lockdown whenever there's even a single case of COVID in the community, well, here in New South Wales, our Premier Gladys Berejiklian tried a different tactic, announcing a long, soft and floppy lockdown when cases ticked up to almost 30 on Saturday.
From 6 p.m. today, all of Greater Sydney, the Blue Mountains, the Central Coast and Wollongong will go into a lockdown with stay-at-home orders in place until midnight, Friday the 9th of July.
But you know one person who would absolutely hate Gladys Berejiklian for announcing a lockdown like this? Well, you can probably guess that it's past Gladys Berejiklian.
I don't want to ever be in a situation where we need to lock down New South Wales again. We've done that. We never ever want to be in a situation where we go into lockdown. We can't shut down every time we have a cluster of cases. We can't keep shutting down and reopening, shutting down and reopening.
Look, living in Sydney myself, me and a lot of people I know were actually quite relieved when Gladys decided to pull the pin and put us into a lockdown, as I don't know about you, I was getting very tired of stressfully checking the list of literally hundreds of exposure sites every day on my way to work. Damn it, which day did I go to Ashfield Bunnings again? Oh, Tropicana Cafe. Sucked in. But also, being a pro-business conservative state Liberal government has meant that Sydney's lockdown really isn't a very strict one.
Other stores which might not be recognised as providing essential services or goods have not been ordered to close, leaving it up to customers to decide if they really need to go there.
And just like last year's lockdown here, the definition of essential is whatever you want it to be. Yeah, honey, I'm just going to pop out for an Essential Frasier Season 2 DVD from JB Hi-Fi. Then I might just swing by Athlete's Foot, you know, try on some Essential shoes. Then I'm going to go to Kmart after that, get an Essential $12 Rage Against the Machine t-shirt. Oh, Darl, if you're going to Kmart, don't forget to get the Essential Lego Star Wars Baby Yoda and the Essential LOL Surprise OMG Dance 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 doll. Oh, well, I wouldn't forget that, honey. That's essential. But don't worry, there is some strictness. The police are out in force, cracking down on our lower-income multicultural suburbs.
We'll double down our efforts in terms of visibility and compliance in southwestern Sydney, in particular around that Auburn, Bankstown area, in those shopping areas.
And if you're wondering if during this lockdown there was any increased oversight or accountability for the police to make sure they weren't overly harsh or targeting the more vulnerable or needy members of our community, then of course there wasn't. All they told us about was this stupid bloody deer story.
Unbelievably, we saw 2 men sunbaking naked on a beach on the south coast. They were startled by a deer, ran into the National Park and got lost. Not only did they require assistance from SES and police to rescue them, they also both received a ticket for $1,000.
Yeah, so the morning this came out, which was Monday, I was on my way to work, and I of course saw the New South Wales Police threatening to fine a homeless man for not being home during lockdown. Good job, geniuses. And of course the media ate up the deer story like they were Deer at a deer park being hand-fed some deer food.
The greatest story of the year.
Two men have been fined $1,000 each for breaching Sydney's COVID lockdown under very unusual circumstances.
The pair were apparently found naked.
Two men sunbaking nude on a beach on the south coast, apparently caught after they were startled by a deer.
Startled by a deer.
They'd been startled by a deer.
Startled by a feral deer.
That old one.
They were caught buck naked.
Buck naked.
The men were chased into the Royal National Park and got lost.
Each fined a cheeky $1,000.
Certainly a story that raises more questions than answers.
I don't know. I don't understand this. How deers are running wild over there and with naked blokes. Anyway.
No idea.
I hope the deer's okay.
Oh, and hey, speaking of erratic red-nosed fornicating mammals, on last week's show I covered Barnaby Joyce regaining leadership of the Nationals and the Deputy Prime Ministership of Australia. So now, let's check in and see how that's going. I bet he's trying to set a good example during his first week back.
Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce has been fined $200 after not wearing a mask while paying for petrol in Armidale yesterday.
Someone twigged and dobbed him in to Crime Stoppers.
Filled the car up with fuel, went in 30 seconds later, $200 it cost me because I didn't wear one of these. But that's life.
Geez, not like Barnaby Joyce to forget to use protection. Look, to be fair, I too have forgotten to put on a mask when I've popped into a petrol station to pay for fuel because it's a simple, honest mistake. Anyone can make it. But at the same time, it's Barnaby Joyce, so please, everyone just dob him in mercilessly. Thank you. Now, if only you could call Crime Stoppers on a botched vaccine rollout, because ours somehow got re-botched again this week.
Vaccine rollout rethink. AstraZeneca available to all Australians who want it, even those under 60.
Questions and concerns as the government changes its vaccine advice again.
AstraZeneca, last month limited to over 60s, last night opened to every adult.
Yes, because the federal government will now be covering the vaccine indemnity for doctors and the fact we made too much of it, and the government keeps changing the age recommendations on who can get it, confusing everyone and causing widespread vaccine hesitancy. Now AstraZeneca will be available to any adult who wants it. I feel like maybe the government's long-term aim here was trying to trick young people into actually wanting AstraZeneca, the same way a parent would try and trick their toddler into wanting vegetables. Oh, these? Trust me, you don't want these Brussels sprouts. They're only for grown-ups. They're only recommended for like over 50s. No, wait, over 60s. No, wait, I changed my mind. Now anyone who wants Brussels sprouts can have Brussels sprouts. Do you want some Brussels sprouts? Eat your damn Brussels sprouts. I cooked way too many Brussels sprouts. Now all we have is Brussels sprouts for the next 9 months. Eat your Brussels sprouts. Anyways, I saw a couple of problems with this plan, though.
If you wish to get the AstraZeneca vaccine, then we would encourage you to, A, go and have that discussion with your GP.
People of all ages, after consulting their GP, will have access to the AstraZeneca.
If you are under 40 and you're after that AstraZeneca vaccine, you need to talk to your GP.
Yes, our vaccine rollout is starting to resemble an American prescription drug commercial.
Talk to your doctor to find out if prescription
the AstraZeneca vaccine
is right for you.
And I mean, who the hell under 40 has a regular GP? Does nobody in the government realise most adults under 40 just stop into a random clinic near one of their many jobs when they're violently ill and request to see the first available doctor to renew their prescription for anus antibiotics or whatever it is they need? It's a bit like asking someone under 40 to talk to their bank manager or their bus driver. Which one? It's different every time. And then this confusion isn't helping either.
Scott Morrison is being accused of opening up eligibility for AstraZeneca jabs without the backing of health experts or state leaders. Experts insist that Pfizer remains the preferred vaccine for younger Australians, but says it's up to the individual to take the risk.
The decision to expand access to AstraZeneca was made by Scott Morrison, not the nation's expert advisory group. For a Prime Minister who's made a virtue of always following the medical advice, he's now telling Australians they can choose to go against it.
Now encouraging people under 40 to consider ignoring that medical advice.
Yeah, Scott Morrison is basically saying, hey, all you risk-loving millennials, just ignore the medical advice. Just ignore the medical advice on this one. Meanwhile, all the millennials are like, hey, while we're at it, can we also ignore the medical advice surrounding taking ketamine and operating heavy machinery? Is that okay? Look, I'm joking, but it is a complex issue. Clearly, the government wants to lift vaccination rates. Health advice be damned. because winter is well and truly here, COVID is out in the community, lockdowns are back, and our vaccination rates are among the lowest in the entire world.
Only 7% of Australians are fully vaccinated.
We're ranked last amongst all OECD countries. That's embarrassing.
We've also, we're doing better than just about every other country in the way that we've managed community transmission.
And it's because of that success up to now that we've had these mixed messaging and constant changes. If we had people dying in their hundreds every day, like in other countries, I think we'd all be saying AstraZeneca would do very nicely right now, thank you very much.
The argument for limiting the vaccine was made by measuring the 1 in 100,000 chance of developing rare blood clots against the 0 chance of dying from COVID-19 in a nation that had all but eliminated it.
Yeah, so COVID is now back and it's vaccine time, baby. No, not so fast, says Queensland.
Queensland today launching a stunning attack on AstraZeneca.
Queensland's Chief Health Officer didn't mince her words today.
No, I do not want under 40s to get AstraZeneca. I don't want an 18-year-old in Queensland dying from a clotting illness who, if they got COVID, probably wouldn't die.
Yes, Queensland Chief Health Officer Jeanette Young there, clearly scared of young people dying from blood clots from the AstraZeneca vaccine, forgetting that long COVID is also a thing and lockdowns will keep happening again and again until we get more people vaccinated. And yes, I'm sorry, what are the chances of those blood clots again?
The chance of someone under 50 developing a blood clot from AstraZeneca is 3 in 100,000, with a 1 in 1 million chance of dying. By comparison, taking aspirin every day for heart conditions leads to 1 death in every 10,000.
Critics say you're more likely to die scuba diving, under an anaesthetic, riding a motorbike, swimming in a pool, even giving birth.
If you know what to look for and you get to the hospital, the risk of death is so much lower, infinitesimally lower than hopping in a car.
But of course, the Queensland government will never ban aspirin, scuba diving or motor cars because guess what? The benefits outweigh the risk. And also, there's no public transport in Queensland. All right, look, feel free to disagree with me, but I get the feeling that if the Pfizer and Moderna mRNA vaccines had never been invented, then the AstraZeneca would be applauded as a miracle drug. And in the UK this week, it literally was.
Professor Sarah Gilbert, who led the team that developed the AstraZeneca vaccine, is hailed by the large crowd at a largely mask-free Wimbledon.
One of the biggest cheers you'll ever hear in the sporting stadium.
Mind you, the Wimbledon crowd also this week gave Nick Kyrgios a standing ovation, so I'm not sure if they have any standards. All right, look, we're in lockdown in Australia right now because of the federal government. They didn't build us medically sound quarantine facilities, they didn't order enough Pfizer for us early on, and the changing messaging around the AstraZeneca vaccine has sowed enough fear in the community to basically become a renewable energy source for anti-vaxxers' Facebook posts well into next century. So thankfully, this week, Prime Minister Scott Morrison saw his government's litany of failures and took full responsibility. And no, just kidding, he said, don't blame us, it's all the virus's fault.
But I can't stress enough that the major frustration here is the virus. That is the major thing working against Australia. The reason we've got a lockdown is because of a pandemic and a virus.
Yeah, thanks, ScoMo. Next time the virus escapes from a 60-year-old Holiday Inn or gets spread by a frontline worker who hasn't had access to a vaccine yet, I'll say, damn you, virus, this is all your fault. Meanwhile, Western Australian Premier Mark McGowan has another idea about how we should deal with COVID.
We need to just open the floodgates.
Hey, what? Are you crazy? Let COVID run Oh, no, wait, there was more.
We need to just open the floodgates to more vaccination across Australia.
Phew, yes, and I'm with Mark McGowan. I think we should all go get vaccinated as soon as we can with whatever we can so we can stop lockdowns, start travelling overseas, and most importantly, hopefully not die of coronavirus. So, as an American TV ad would say,
talk to your doctor to find out if prescription
the AstraZeneca vaccine
is right for you.
Newsfighters, Australia's funniest news summary podcast.